This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees was previously called to order. The presence of a quorum has been established and the meeting has been duly called and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We are reconvening from executive session, and as always, we'll have our prayer and pledge of allegiance, and Mr. Newsom.
Lord, I'm praying this time on behalf of our school districts, Lord, especially our teachers, our students, and interacting day by day. The teachers are providing the educational background that they need for the students, that they can continue to receive that and continue to develop their education throughout the year. Lord, we thank you for watching over them. We pray that they can do it in a very safe manner and that you will continue to bless them in this special time. Lord, we know that this year is a very special year, it's very difficult for teachers and aspects of the dual educational process of the classroom and the virtual. So I continue to give them the patience and endurance they need to work through this process, that this will hopefully be resolved in near time. Lord, we pray for support that will continue to watch over them, that work daily, providing the necessary things for the staff and individuals on the campus, Lord. We pray continually for the administration to continue to oversee the process, that everything will go well. Lord, we pray for this meeting tonight that everything we do will be pleasing and acceptable, and that we will continue to always have the interest of the students at heart, and everything we do will have that interest in vain. So Lord, we thank you for the continued blessing. Even if anything we may have not come very to your word, right now on the present. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On honor of the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Newsom. We don't have any action coming out of executive session, and so our first part of the agenda, as always, is public participation, and we do have one speaker, Mr. Bob Brewer. Good evening, Mr. Brewer.
Let me get my smiling face out here. Thank you, Board, and thank you again for this opportunity. I also wanted to thank you for recognizing Constitution Week last week. I called some of our schools, and they mentioned that because of COVID, they were unable to have public participation, but they did say that they had read a statement from the Tyler paper over the intercom system. When I looked at that article, unfortunately, I was appalled. It seems like it's very similar to the New York Times 1619 project, where they did a total rewrite of American history. The part of the Tyler paper article that I found so egregious was that the Constitutional Convention constructed a new plan to create a stronger, more centralized government. From everything that I've ever studied and learned, that is exactly the opposite of the truth. States were fiercely independent. They in no way wanted to recreate a form of government like the one they just defeated, the most powerful king on earth. Each state wanted to remain independent with their own ways of doing things. The federal government that they created was one of specific enumerated powers. The Constitution has 7 articles. The first one makes up over half of the document. Section 8 of Article 1 is where the enumerated powers of the federal government are listed. The federal government can do nothing beyond those enumerated powers. All other powers are left to the states or to the people. Anyway, I do appreciate you trying to do a public program on the Constitution and at least reading that article from the Tyler paper. On the first Saturday of Constitution Week, we had the author of the Constitution Boot Camp, Bob Hilliard, and he actually got to teach 2 recently elected officials. One of them said they bought all our materials and wanted to have a program to hundreds. Hopefully, as I offered to you guys earlier this year, we might be able to reach thousands of students and get the real message of the Constitution out. It seems the more that I studied the Constitution, the more I learned. What I learned this week was that the first sentence of the entirety of U.S. Code mentions the laws of nature and of nature's God. I had no clue before last week, but that the laws of nature's God are the Bible. And that right after signing the Treaty of England, the Treaty of Paris, the first thing that our Confederation Congress did was to commission the printing of 10,000 books to be used in schools. The book of the laws of nature's God, or the Bible. 17 of those guys went on to sign the Constitution. 2 of them were Supreme Court justices, and 1 of them was a chief. I don't know how they can commission 10,000 Bibles for the use in public schools, and we can't have them in our schools. Basically, in America, we have 2 sets of laws. They're God's laws, and number 2, everything else. As far as the Constitution is concerned, the Constitution was written solely to protect God's laws, our equality at creation, and our God-given unalienable rights, and the pursuit, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's just a marvelous thing. It's just amazing that our founders were so wise, and the oaths that y'all have to swear are to protect and defend the Constitution, which is protecting God's laws. Oh, and one thing I didn't want to forget. Well, let's see. I don't know where it is. I forgot it. Let me see. The father of the Constitution wrote to Thomas Jefferson, the father of the Declaration, on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration signing. On the same day that Thomas Jefferson died, Madison said, "The future and success of America is not in this Constitution, but in the laws of God upon which this Constitution is founded." That, my fellow citizens, is why we were given the greatest nation on earth, because our founders are so concerned about protecting the laws of God upon which our Constitution is founded. And that's why I keep coming here. We've got to teach our students what our founders knew so that we can once again become successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Okay, I tell you what, before I move on to the approval of minutes, just publicly, we lost a bit of a legend this week in Tyler ISD, Thara Lee Washington, who between him and Gene served for decades the kids of Tyler, and I just wanted to lift them up publicly and let the Washington family know that they are in our prayers. And if y'all don't mind, just a brief moment of silence for Thara Lee and all his service to this town. Okay. We're going to move on now to the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes on our agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We're moving on to the continuous improvement portion of our agenda, which is an advanced placement and dual credit update with Gary Brown coming to us digitally.
Mr. Brown zooming in. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Washington and Dr. Crawford, trustees. I do appreciate the opportunity to share some reflective information from the previous school year, as well as looking ahead into the coming school year in terms of AP and dual credit. I'm going to share my screen and move into this Just to look back, this past summer, the board adopted some new successful student outcome goals, and the advanced placement and dual credit specifically speaks to goal 3. It states the percent of Tyler ISD graduates that are college, career, or military ready will increase from 63.4% to 71.7% by June of 2026. And so both of these measures are included in the CCMR goal. And just kind of a refresher on the 3 primary areas: the college readiness, the career readiness, which really speaks to the industry-based certifications that our students are earning, and of course enlistment in the United States Armed Forces. This report specifically, we're going to look at scores of 3 or higher on AP exams. The students that are earning 3 or more hours, 3 hours of college language arts or math, or combined 9 hours of college dual credit. Those are all criterion within the CCMR indicators. Some trend data, just looking at the last several years, 2017, 18, and 19. You can see as you go down each one of the rows, the students taking AP exams, where we have been, and then the number of AP exams that these students collectively took. Many of them took more than one exam, but as I bring in the 2020 data, I just would be mindful in thinking back to last March, April, and May that give our AP students and AP teachers a lot of credit. We weren't sure how many of them would stay the course, but as you look at 2020, these exams were given remotely online during the month of May, and we had 487 students move forward and go ahead and take those exams. We had roughly 600 students registered for exams, and we had a few of those, about 80% decided to go ahead and take the exams, 870 total exams taken, and then of those 487 students, we had 269 students earn a passing score, which is 3, 4, or 5. That bottom row, if you look across from year to year, it shows the percentage of the students that took AP exams that actually received that passing score, and that number actually went up this past year. I think that really speaks to, once again, to the AP teachers and students for their diligence. Just a couple of comparisons, and I'll pause a second because I want to make sure if there's any questions. I'll just keep moving forward. The mean score comparison talks about the averages. So when you're looking at, and these particular subjects are those that have the widest difference between the state mean average, and when it says Texas there, that is all students in the entire state. Public school, private school, charter school, homeschool. All students across the state. For example, in that first subject area, calculus AB, that took the test, across the state, the average was 2.7, and Tyler ISD students averaged at 3.6. So this was our widest differential between the state average and the district average. And then you can look down the subjects here. Psychology, about a half a point higher than the state. English literature and composition. This is the English 4 class that seniors take, AP English 4, that had that half point differential. And then U.S. history and environmental science. In addition to these 5 courses, there were 11 other courses, AP exams, that students took that they scored higher than the average, the state average on the mean score. So 16 of 28 AP exams, our students in Tyler ISD outperformed the state. Another way of looking at the data, comparing it across the state, are the passing percentages, which is an important number because this is looking at the volume of students that actually end up passing the test with 3, 4s, and 5s. So you can see the subject areas and the passing percentages, and then here's the differential. The calculus students, again, they really performed well this past year. 76% of our students that took that exam scored a 3, 4, 5 compared to just over half of the students across the state. And you can move down the list to English literature composition, 22% gap. As you're looking on the percentages, when you get down to United States history, it says 62% passing, which seems like a little bit of dip compared to the other ones. One thing I would point out is that this is historically, It's one of the largest exams in terms of the number of exams given across the state and the nation. And historically, it has some of the lowest passing percentages. And you can see that in terms of the state. That's the lowest one on the state average as well, 47%. So even at 62% passing, we exceeded the state passing rate by 15%. So our students did well in that courses also. And in this area, as you're looking at passing percentages, Tyler ISD students outperformed their peers across the state on 17 of 28 exams. Another thing that we look at are AP Scholar Awards that we've been focused on, and these are cumulative awards granted students that take multiple AP exams and score 3 or higher. You can see the data over the last several years. The AP Scholar criteria, that's students that score 3 or higher on at least 3 exams. And then when you add the AP Scholar with honor, that's 3 or higher on at least 4 AP exams cumulatively. That next one, AP Scholar with distinction, it's 5 or more AP exams and a 3.5 average overall. And then that bottom row, you can see where AP Scholars. This is honestly one we didn't think we could maintain just because the number of testers dropped, the number of tests given, but we were able to hold ground there. And I would add one more little statistic. This is a very, very high level of achievement to be named a National AP Scholar. These students scored a 4 or a 5 on 8 or more AP exams and had an average overall of 4.0. So that's an extremely difficult achievement over multiple exams and years. Moving over to the dual credit comparison data, looking back over the last few years, you can see here that 2 years ago, and this is combining the fall and spring semester courses, you can see the growth over those last 2 years, and then you can move into the third year. This would have been the fall of 2019 and the spring of 2021. The courses passed, we only look at A's, B's, and C's that the students earned in their dual credit courses. Even though a D would be transcripted and receive credit on a college transcript, it does not allow the students to earn high school credit. So when we look at these passing percentages and courses passed, we're only looking at A's, B's, and C's. So you can see where we finished up in 2019-20. We had a significantly more number of courses taken and passed. The percentage rate dropped from 97 to 93, and I don't have a specific reason for that other than I would say that these students, in March, April, and May, just like the other students, were having to hang in there in these dual credit classes. And credit, honestly, to Tyler Junior College. They did a very good job of converting very quickly in the spring to an online environment, as we did in Tyler ISD, but for these courses to maintain their students to maintain their work and to be able to earn the credit. And this last little thing, it's not necessarily a goal, but I think it's a milestone worth noting that this past year combined, the Tyler ISD students earned more than 10,000 college credit hours through the dual credit program. That's the first time that's happened. And I think that's a pretty significant achievement to hit that mark. Looking ahead, really all you can look at now at this point in terms of AP and dual credit for the current school year is how many students do we have enrolled. And so when you look across the advanced placement line, you see those numbers. We had a slight dip last year and actually had a healthy increase in the current semester that we're in. It went up 130 students in AP courses this year over last year. The next one was the most surprising to me. If you look at the dual credit numbers that have actually gone up, March, April, and May, June, July, and August, those 6 months, just not being able to meet directly with students through the college registration process, testing process, but we actually have an increase in it. We didn't think that was going to be the case, but we actually have an increase. And then overall, you can see that as we compare fall of 2018, 2019, and then to this most recent data gathering, we're up a little over 200 students in our AP and dual credit courses. And that's the data, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have on any of that data.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Brown. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just to the rest of the board, does anybody have any questions? or comments about any of this for Gary?
Just a comment in regards to the results. I think TISD is doing a great job academically with these students. It's proven by the testing results. I think that it's an excellent program and very impressive when you compare it with the state results. So TISD is doing a great job once again. Thank you for your part as well.
Typically, we're always, it seems like chasing the state a little bit on scores here
Yeah.
and there, but continually, it seems in the AP department, we're ahead, and that always feels good to outpace the state. I say it every year, but you are doing a great job, Dr. Brown. Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Brown?
I'm not a doc yet, so
Oh, I'm sorry, Doc.
no, that's all right.
I wanted you to be Doc Brown.
I would say that our teachers and our administrators and counselors honestly do a tremendous job promoting the programs and supporting the programs.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. Dr. Crawford, do you have anything to add?
Gary, before you get off, there's one of our competitors likes to brand their buses going around town as college prep. And maybe we need to start doing that in Tyler ISD because y'all have done a great job. I know you're a facilitator, Gary. It's really our teaching staff, it's our students, it's our campus administrators that really do take this on. You've done an outstanding job in the position that you're in because we've made this important since 2016. And so it's really kudos to the campus staff. And we just continue to get better, with early college, high school, with the new facilities that we have, we're going to be able to attract incredible teachers. We already have incredible teachers. And if you start thinking about the TJC Promise, I'm a user. I'm actually a client now. And that you can't beat that with an opportunity to go and get your associate's degree at a really, really high level, high quality junior college, and then go anywhere you want to go. So kudos to our staff that's done an outstanding job, and proud of y'all. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Ditto. Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, well, we're moving on. We got a pretty light agenda tonight. We're moving on to our business, legal, finance consent agenda. And I do see gifts and donations on there. We usually pull that one, but do I have a motion on items A and C?
I'd like to pull C. I just have a question for clarification.
Go for it. All right, so we'll go ahead and take a motion to approve item A.
Mr. President, I move that we approve item A.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to gifts and donations.
on page 40, or excuse me, not page 40, on page 43 of your packet, we have a very benevolent donation to the school system, valued at $20,000. There's 40 iPads donated to Tyler ISD from Suddenlink. Those will actually be plugged in to the staff iPad initiative that we have as far as the staff devices go, as we continue to become more efficient with the digital instruction as well. So we really thank our partners here in Tyler ISD, our partners at Suddenlink, are really stepping up to the plate for this. We really appreciate them and doing something locally here to support our teachers as we go forward with those iPads.
That is great. What a thoughtful gift. We sure do appreciate Suddenlink. I'll go ahead and take a motion to approve item B.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to item C. It's the consider of approval of our TASB Update 115. It's some local policies. Mr. Newsom, you had a question?
I just
for
had a
Dr.
question. I
Crawford?
noticed that the policies are listed here, and a couple of them were deleted, and I was wondering, how do you determine what's deleted and what's not? Is it a requirement of TASB that they ask for specific things, or is it, I wasn't sure why they were deleted, because, professional development and student
What page specifically?
Page 45, the professional development, professional meetings and visitation was deleted, and then the student activity, contests, and competitions were deleted. And I wasn't sure why they
Yeah.
were.
Usually those things get covered in another area of
Okay.
policy. And so from time to time, you'll get TASB cleaning up their stuff and it gets forwarded here.
Okay,
And then it gets covered somewhere else. So we split up into teams to review all of those to make sure that those policies do get covered somewhere else
Okay.
and to understand the actual reason behind that. So that's what they normally do. Sometimes we'll catch a policy that we'll look at it and go, you know what, we want to keep that in there, bring it to y'all so it stays in there, even though it may be covered somewhere else. I can't remember which, we did that. I think on a Title IX policy a couple, 3 years ago, we had very specific language we didn't care for in TASB, that this board wanted to make sure that it maintained in Title IX policy, that met local expectations. And so that was one that we did catch up, but these are usually just cleaned up there. It gives it up to the local administration to advise the board, or for a board member to catch it, to ask that question. And we can certainly always go back and revise those local policies if there's something that was deleted that's not covered somewhere else, but those are covered somewhere else.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir?
Okay. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve item C.
I move that we approve item C.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to our curriculum instruction consent agenda. Did we have any that we wanted to pull? This is A through D, or talk about, or are we prepared to go ahead and move on items A through D?
What, I'd like to pull C.
Mhm.
C, item C, pull, just to discuss.
Item C, okay,
briefly.
we'll pull
Yeah.
item C. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve items A, B, and D then.
I move that we approve items A, B, and D.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, moving on to item C, which is the approval of our revised District of Innovation Plan. Mr. Newsom?
Yes, looking at the plan, looking at the first page of the handout, looking at the very bottom, progress measures 4, on both pages really, first and second pages, I'm just looking at the goals. I'm as I expressed before when we talked about this, I would like to see us doing something more aggressively, and we talked about possibility of doing that, so that the percentages for the Hispanic and the African American students can kind of get a little bit better as far as the outcomes and projecting and working on programs. I don't want to put that on the back burner. I want to make sure that we are aggressively pursuing avenues to close the gap between the different ethnic groups within our educational system. You know, TISD is doing a great job, and I think they have the capabilities of doing it. I just want to make sure that we don't forget and accept these percentages as acceptable, because personally, we could as a district, but I don't personally as an individual, because I think that we need to be doing more to narrow the gaps. And I will always feel like that when we see, you know, that much difference in some of the projected goals. I think that we need to really put emphasis on those Hispanic and African American students somehow.
Yes, sir. A lot of our work has been done towards Hispanic and African American students. I'll reiterate what I've said before. A lot of the
Right.
work that we've pushed towards traditionally struggling schools, where those schools are not traditionally
Yeah.
struggling per the accountability system. Without a focus on those students who are predominantly African American Hispanic, we would be stuck in F schools.
Yeah.
That is not the case right now. We have good data coming from places like Douglas and Dixie, who are now B schools, that do not have a very large Anglo population. Certainly, we do what we can. I'll say this, a few years ago at Convocation, before you arrived on the Board of Trustees, I gave a presentation to our staff. I think it was 2015. Might have been 2016, I don't really remember. Been here a little bit long now. But according to data, to close these gaps, it would take 97 years to close some of the gaps. And I'm not saying we have that much time, but I'm just saying
I know we don't.
these gaps were not built in the last 10 years. And that is something we are really focusing on here to try to speed that up. And I think you see some of the inputs that we are putting in place with our phonics initiative is where we really need to make an impact as far as that goes. Every campus is extremely aware of every one of their children that are black and brown, and that they do need to make their services available for them and to speed up what we're doing. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not making COVID as an excuse, but right now, I don't know how accurate some of these projections could be. We did what we did with the data that we had under normal circumstances. And absolutely, we need to do that. And I think it takes more than just you and I talking here at the school board meeting. It takes more than the administration doing it, but it takes more than our teachers who have been working extremely hard, along with our principals extremely hard. It does take a community push to get serious about something like that and to actually provide some of the accountability that goes into this, not just resting upon every teacher that we have, every principal that we have, every superintendent that we have, every board member that we have. So in saying that, we realize the pressure on that. This is not a new thing that was developed here in Tyler ISD. And again, going back to that 2016 presentation that I gave, the amount of time that it would take to actually close it under current rates is unacceptable. There's no doubt about that. That's not a Tyler statistic. That is a national statistic. That is a Texas statistic. We are concerned just about Tyler, but at the same time, we are on it. And absolutely, you've made your point, and I agree with you completely. That's got to get better.
I'm not saying that we haven't made a lot of progress. You know, I've been here since '82,
Agreed.
and I know that we
Understand that.
have significantly. It's just the concept and the thought. When you look at these numbers, that it's appalling.
Yeah.
So, and that's my point in the aspect that we're doing so good in a lot of the other areas. And AP program we just saw, excellent program, doing extremely well. But when we look at the elementary program, the foundational years, we're struggling.
Yeah.
And it's really important
Yeah, I agree.
to try to reach
You're
out.
right.
And I'll say that I'm willing to do whatever I can from the community perspective to get more community initiatives or whatever. Be willing to meet with whoever on the administration to discuss some possibilities, because it is significant and it is important from my perspective at least.
Yeah, no doubt.
To make sure that we can make a difference greater than our goals, you know, at least
Sure.
saying that we are superseding our goals,
Sure.
exceeding them, and progressing. And I think we are progressing. I think we've done an excellent job, but it's still not acceptable from our perspective.
Our push on early literacy is certainly something that's, I think, ambitious, because I think there's just people that are just going along the motions. But you start looking at graduation rates, we are getting our kids
Yeah.
graduated, both African American
Right.
and Hispanic as
Right.
well, outpacing a lot of our regional peers and in some cases the states as well. So, agreed. If that's one thing we need to work on, that is certainly something we need to work on. But I also want to be smart about it as well. I think that we've got capacity within the organization to achieve some things. I don't want to get so far behind that we can't do it, because a lot of this is based upon testing that's made by psychometricians.
Right.
Those things are changed. There's a big debate about whether or not some of the literacy, the reading tests that are being given, at least at the state level and even at the national level, of whether or not those are accurately gauging whether or not kids are literate or not. And so I think we always got to keep that in mind as we go forward, that while they may not be able to pass a standardized test, that our kids are getting pretty good reading instruction now as compared to what they were. And I'm hoping that'll be indicative in the outcomes, and we can make some of these strides here and close some of those gaps.
Mr. Washburn, can I?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Crawford, you know, for my 20 years being involved, we've talked about the achievement gap. We've tried many, many things. It's made a little progress, it seems like. Are there any other external factors going on that maybe have been off limits that have an effect? I think about this being at Mr. Washington's funeral and hearing his son talk about how involved his father was in his education, and it just made me realize how important that is. And I just don't know if there's been maybe some factors that seem to have been off limits for a school to discuss that might we might want to consider if we're really trying to figure out something that makes a difference. You know, maybe something like educating kids on the importance of having a father in their life. Because I've been on here long enough that the people that I coached early on are now fathers and almost grandfathers. And, you know, to me, you know, watching a cycle of teenagers have children and their children have, teenagers have children, seems to be part of the problem. So I'm just wondering if there's other factors we can look at. That's one example that we might want to do to say, you know what, instead of letting another generation get, you know, fall behind, is there anything else we can do that would help kids have a better chance to succeed, that we're not just doing with, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic?
You know, I do think the school system has made a good effort, as approved by the board, to begin with some of the character education as far as a district-wide initiative with Leader in Me. I do think that there are some opportunities within that philosophy to understand what self-accountability looks like. And I think that's what you're talking about. That if you choose to be a father or a mother, that's for life, and that's a very important decision that you make. But no, sir, nothing off the top of my head, but it is certainly something that I think that we can spend some time upon and maybe get something to y'all. You're talking about character education, and there's certainly, there's a lot of room for that. And I think that we're in the right community to maybe focus upon that. We've got some resources that maybe other communities don't have with our faith-based groups that are around here. You know, we're off to a good start with Mentoring Alliance. Don't have enough kids, enough students that are being accessed by them. We need our parents to get their kids to that program. But that's just a tiny part of that. I think you've brought up and unearthed a pretty big issue whenever you start talking about some of the challenges that our schools face. Absolutely.
Well, I think, Mr. Newsom, thank you for bringing that up, and it'd be something I would be real interested in being involved in if we to try something different that really makes a difference.
Yeah.
Not that there's not a ton of hard work, and I don't want, like you said, I mean, gosh dang, it's hard.
Yeah.
This isn't just like, okay, well, let's just set the goal higher and it'll happen. We should have been doing that. No, it's hard. It's the most difficult part of what we've done here since I've been involved. So I'm ready to try some different things that have proven to work, even though some people may not think that they're, you know, in vogue right now to talk about a father being involved, or about discipline, or about things that have worked for centuries and centuries on helping people achieve whatever it is they want to. We've got to have some common sense come back at some point. And I think we need to look at things that have worked and helped people, and not have topics be off limits.
Noted.
Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Just a little bit before you go on, just on the District of Innovation, since we did pull it off. This is a renewal that has to happen every 3 years. So I don't know, or every 3 or 4 years. Excuse me, 5 years. I can't believe we're already in the 5th year of this. And that's the time. There's been no other adjustments in the plan. It has helped us in a lot of ways. The 22-to-1, which, oh my gosh, this last week on a call with the commissioner, he interpreted statute. That does not actually have to go to the Texas Education Agency to be approved anymore. So 22-to-1, it's a local decision. It's been that way, the way that they're interpreting it now, but that is in our plan. So 22-to-1 is something that goes in front of the board. If we go over that, y'all, you know, in grades K through 4, you guys are the ones that vote to allow that to happen here at the local level. We try to do a good job of keeping that on there. We've also got hiring practices in there as far as certifications go. If you do have a degree, you can get a local certification to be able to teach kids while you work through there. Those DOI certifications, Ms. Atkins, are just one-year certifications. They're always probationary certifications. So you do not receive a protected contract or a tenured contract, after 3 or 4 years as well. We also did not, we also limited the amount of time as far as contracts go, as far as entering into marriage with a new employee. Actually, it's 2 years now instead of just 1 year that you have to make a determination whether or not you put somebody on a term that's brand new to the school system. And that could be whether they're an experienced teacher or not. So those are just some of the highlights of DOI that I wanted to go over since this is our 5th year. And you have to do the same thing. So the board approves it, has to be posted. And then actually after 30 days, Dr. Hanson, it gets approved after that. Okay.
And I do think that's one great thing that came out of Austin when it did was to free us up,
Yeah.
to do our jobs better without so much red tape. That was what the District of Innovation was all about. So
Yeah. Kudos to Tyler ISD School Board and the DOI committee who put this together. They were one of the most, we were one of the most more aggressive ones early on, because a lot of them just focused on career technology certifications. And appreciate everybody supporting this initiative. It's really helped us.
absolutely. Well, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve our revised District of Innovation plan.
I move that we approve the revised innovation plan.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. Motion carries. All right. Superintendent staff report, we have a quarterly investment report.
It's your annual quarterly, or your quarterly investment report. Tasha, do you have anything you'd like to address with the board? Any big updates? The rate keeps falling. So the check mark recovery that we're having in the stock market really doesn't impact anything with our investments, does it? That's right. Well, we were in good shape for a long time, weren't we, Tasha? And thankfully, it hit right with the bond. We were able to do a lot of pretty cool, creative stuff with our investment dollars from the bond. And thank goodness it wasn't here, because we'd be cutting things out of the construction program if the economy would have hit the way it hit, and it was now.
Okay, any questions, comments? Moving forward to future business, looks like we have a workshop on October 8th and a regular meeting on October 19th.
That's right. The Tyler High Lions are here Thursday night, Christus Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium. The Legacy Red Raiders are here Friday night, Christus Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium. Good old East Texas rivalries. We play Texas High Thursday night, Lufkin High on Friday night. Go
All right.
Lions, go Red Raiders.
Good matchups. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.